right, today we're going to be working with some division. So it's chapter 3, divide by a one-digit divisor, and lesson 3 is today, so it's 2-digit dividends. And what I realized when I was just writing this right now is that you probably don't know what a divisor and a dividend is. So we're talking long division. So this symbol represents long division. And I always thought that it must have some very fancy name, but it turns out it's the long division symbol. That's all. It's really not anything fancier than just the long division symbol. Okay, so normally in math everything has fancy names, but this one doesn't. So this is the page that we're working off of here. So it's page 169. I find 169 to be really just too much going on the page. So we're going to come right back over here and work here instead. So when you have a long division symbol, inside you'll have a number, and this is your dividend. So make sure you write this down because this is going to be very big in 5th grade. Inside the house, I call this a house instead of long division symbol. So inside the house you have the dividend, and on the outside, on the left side, you have the divisor. Okay, so the dividend is inside, the divisor is outside. When you are done, you will get the answer to the problem, and that is going to be up here, and it's called your quotient. Okay, so your quotient, I'm going to write this down, is the answer to a division problem. Division problem. So it would be okay to say, hey, what's the answer to 12 divided by 6? But it's more appropriate to say, what's the quotient of 12 divided by 6? Okay, the dividend is the number being divided. Ugh, always break my pencil when I'm doing math. The number being divided is the dividend. And the divisor is the number dividing. So the number dividing the dividend. Okay, so we're going to write something down so you guys can see. Let's say I had 36 divided by 4. In word form, this is 36 divided by 4. Okay, so that's how you would say this problem. You wouldn't say 4 divided by 36. So 36 divided by 4. All right, and in this case, I'm actually going to do this differently. Your divisor, so the thing that divides the number is 4. Your dividend is 36. And your quotient, well, your quotient can be found by saying, oh, 4 goes into 36 9 times. So that's your answer. Okay, so there we go. I should have written this a little bit differently, but it'll be okay. So we're going to do one example problem down here before we move on to our math paper. Okay, so one of the things that I dislike about your math paper is that it gives you these boxes. And it feels to me very clunky to have boxes, but it might help you guys so that you can see the process of how this works. So what I'm going to do is have this problem here just so we can look at it, and I'll fill this one out too. But then we'll do the problem on the real paper, on our notebook paper over here. So you don't have to do this one. You can just do this one. So put this in your notes, please. So I always start by drawing my house first, and then I put my divisor, or excuse me, my dividend, and then I put my divisor. That's just the way I know to say to myself, 65 divided by 5 is, and then I start doing the work. So here's how you go through this process. You say, all right, I'm going to go to my divisor. 5 goes into 6. Well, 5 can go into 6 one time. But when I do 1 times 5, that gives me 5. So not 6, but that's okay because we're going to subtract. So now we have 6 minus 5 is 1. Now you bring down the next number if there's any leftover numbers, and you put the 5 here. And then at that point, I know that, okay, I need to take a break for a second, collect myself, because now I'm starting the division over again. So now you say 5 goes into 15. Well, 5 times 3 is 15. So I say 3 times 5 is 15. And again, I subtract. And that leaves me with 0. And I don't have any other numbers over here to bring down. So I'm done. My answer is 13. Okay. So over here, you can see 5 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 5 was 5. 6 minus 5 is 1. Bring down that 5. 5 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15 with no leftovers, no remainders. Okay, so that was the process. So now that you have that in your notes, let's travel over here. And I'm not going to do any of the boxes ones. I'll just do a couple of these. So I think that might help you guys out. Let's do 7. And so they already wrote the problem for us. That's great. If this is too small for you because you have big writing, then you're going to need to rewrite the problem because your numbers need to line up exactly under these numbers. And let's say your writing is that big. That's not going to help you. That's going to make it really hard to figure out. So instead, what you would want to use is binder paper or something else. Okay, so let's start this problem. We have 74 divided by 6. So we start by saying 6 goes into 7, well, 1 time. Then 1 times 6 is 6. Subtract it out. 7 minus 6 is 1. And then you have a number over here, so you got to work with that. So you bring down that 4. Okay? Now you say 6 goes into 14. Well, what's the closest thing to 14 that doesn't go over 14? Because you cannot go over 14. So 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. That's really close. 6 times 3 is 18, but that's over. So I'm going to go ahead and put that 2 up there. Again, making sure my numbers are super lined up. Then I say 2 times 6 is, I don't know why I just put a line there. Then I say 6 times 2 is 12. Subtract it out, and you have nothing left over. So your answer is simply 12. Okay. And looking at some of these problems, you're definitely going to have a remainder. So let's go ahead and do number 11, because in this case, you'll have a remainder for sure. So they did not write the problem for me. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up, make sure I have enough room, because remember, if I write big or I just don't have space, that's going to mess me up. So 70 divided by 6, okay? So 6 goes into 7. Well, we know that 6 times 1 is really close, so we'll do that. Okay, 7 minus 6 is 1. We're going to bring down that 0. So 6 into 10. Again, I know that 1 times 6 is 6. That might not be enough. Let's try 2 times 6. Well, that's 12, so that's too much. So we'll go ahead and use 1 again. So 1 times 6 is 6. Go ahead and subtract it out. And because I have no numbers left over here, I'm done. I can't bring down any other numbers. So this is now my remainder. So this goes right up here, and it would be 11 remainder of 4. Okay? When you're doing your work today, we expect to see this work. Don't do it on some other random piece of paper and don't show us. If you have another piece of paper with your work, we want to see it. Okay? All right. I guess we'll just try one of these just to make sure you guys are on the right path here. Okay. So here we go. It's already been written for us, so 42 divided by 3. So we'll say 3 goes into 4 how many times? Well, we know that's 1. So 1 times 3 is 3, and the number's already there, so we know we did it right. Now 4 minus 3 gives me a leftover of 1. We're going to bring down that 2. And I think it's really, really important to put an arrow so that you remember that you actually did bring down that 2. Because if you don't, sometimes when you get to numbers that have like 5 numbers here, 5 digits, you're going to be really confused. So bring down that 2. So now 3 goes into 12. Oh, 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4, hey, that's 12. So 4 times 3 is 12. So 12 minus 12 is 0. Okay? All right, let us know if you guys need help.